Do you think the mighty Spurs will do some business?
They have to. Simple, they have to.
Well, I think it can only be a loan move. I think Manchester United are resigned to the fact no one's going to buy him in this window.
From my understanding, there's no talks or immediate talks in terms of Spurs and Marcus Rashford. I mean,
Would you want him?
they cannot get relegated.
They never look like scoring.
Oh, I know.
They
never
can't.
look like scoring a goal.
The new stadium's waiting there, Alex.
Yeah.
They cannot go down. They dare not even contemplate.
Well,
Hi everybody, welcome along. My name is Jim White and this is the latest edition of the talkSPORT Transfer Notebook. Alongside me, our chief football correspondent, you all know him, Alex Crook. And throughout January, we're going to be joined by a whole assortment of journalists and former players to give you a real insight into how the transfers work and how they go down. I am delighted to say joining us today, none other than my old sparring partner at Sky Sports. He's still with Sky Sports, but he's with us today on the talkSPORT Transfer Notebook, and he is Michael Bridge. Michael Bridge, how are you?
Jim, I'm very well, thank you. It's good
How
to
much
see
of
you.
an honour is it to be with myself and Mr. Crook?
Well, I've known you for over 17 years. We've remained good friends, and it's great to be back with you working again. And I've actually probably known you for about 17
you're
odd
probably
years
right,
as well.
actually.
Yeah, so I feel I'm
Excellent.
in great company. And the minute I walked into the building, it was a bit like Friends Reunited. I saw so many producers. I had a quick chat about Spurs at Paul Hawksby. And wow, what a position in London. It's beautiful, it's stunning, and it's great to be here.
Fantastic to have you here, Michael. Can't stand them. Now, transfers, what do they mean to people? They mean a whole range of things. But Mike, this is a special time, isn't it? The month of January is a special time, and this could be no different.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it gets more difficult every year. Clubs are more savvy. I think having an extended European competition, the Champions League and Europa League being in January is a bit of a different thing. I think European clubs will be a bit more anti-selling their best players. So that's something we've got to factor in as well. But when people say January is impossible, they're wrong. There's always a possibility. So I think things will get done. The simple reason is some clubs really do need to do some business.
I agree with you. I think it will busy up. Alex and I were talking about that just before we joined you today. Somebody said to me, Alex, before I came on air today, do you find it a challenging time? It is,
It
isn't
certainly
it?
is. It was a challenge on Monday this week, driving back from the Northwest after taking in Liverpool United. My phone was red hot, getting information all of the time, not just about players, but obviously about managers in Lopetegui and Dijk as well. And it felt like actually on that Monday afternoon, it was deadline day already. There was so much going on. So having come into this window thinking it might be quiet, it might be different because of the PSR issues and the European competitions, as Michael has suggested, I think it is going to be frenetic.
Michael, when you and I knew each other at Sky, you were quite an ardent Tottenham fan. I presume that nothing has changed. Do you think the mighty Spurs will do some business?
They have to. Simple, they have to. They've already signed a goalkeeper, a senior goalkeeper, Antoine Kinski, which came out of nowhere. There was talk about Sam Johnston, just talk with the board, Ange Postecoglou and Johan Langer. But they've signed Antoine Kinski. He's a Czech Republic international, and he will go head-to-head with Guillermo Vicario straight away. But look, Vicario is out for quite a while. It's quite amazing. He broke his ankle and carried on playing against Manchester City in that 4-0 win. But the truth of the matter is Spurs have had to have meetings. Summer plans, some of them have had to move to January plans. They simply have to. Spurs are in the bottom half. You know, it's not great. Look, Ange Postecoglou said last May he wouldn't have taken 5th. Well, he certainly won't take 12th. So they need to sort things out. This is a goalkeeper I'm told is going straight in. Whether he starts against Liverpool on Wednesday night might be a little early, but Fraser Forster was ill against Newcastle. They had a third choice goalkeeper in Brandon Austin, who's never played for Spurs before. They needed to bring someone in, and to their credit, they've done it.
Okay, well done to Spurs. We'll get back to them. What about Manchester United? Marcus Rashford, constantly the topic of conversation, Alex. Is there a latest? Is he going out on loan? What's happening with him?
Well, I think it can only be a loan move. I think Manchester United are resigned to the fact no one's going to buy him in this window. A, because I think they would still want £40 million for their academy poster boy, and B, because he's earning so much money. And I think, as I've said to you a couple of times, if he does go, and it's not guaranteed, I think it'll be a Raheem Sterling type deal where whichever club takes him on loan pays a very small percentage of his wages. I doubt there'll be an option, certainly not an obligation to buy. And I think it's probably more likely to be a European team at this stage. I'd keep an eye on Spurs. I mentioned it last week. He's linked up with a stellar agency. Michael will know exactly how much influence they have at Tottenham. I'm not sure that London and Marcus Rashford is a brilliant combination, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think a European move more likely. We hear about Borussia Dortmund this lunchtime potentially. We hear about AC Milan and Juventus monitoring the situation. I think his various advisors, and there are more than one, are getting quite busy.
Yeah, from my understanding, there's no talks or immediate talks in terms of Spurs and Marcus Rashford. I mean,
Would you want him? Do Spurs fans want him?
I think they need players.
Yeah.
You know, you know, look, it's with the greatest respect to Timo Werner, it's really not worked out. Fans have got restless. There's so many injuries. Richarlison is coming back, sure, but how long for? Wilson Odobert, who they signed from Burnley, I'm told is out for quite a bit longer still. They need bodies. Son has signed a new deal today, but look, he's not getting any younger, Jim. But I'd be surprised if this one happened. And also, let's not forget, there'll probably be some kind of Big Six tax as well. Sorry, Newcastle fans. I'm sorry, Everton fans. I'm sorry, Villa fans, about the word Big Six. But it does exist. Yes. And Manchester United and Ruben Amorim will not want to get 12th place Tottenham. Where are United at the moment? 13th, 14th? I don't know.
Well, I think when United beat Southampton and you lose to Arsenal, they go above Spurs in the table.
When Spurs lose to Arsenal, I mean, look, you're probably not wrong, are you? But I mean, look, from my understanding, that's not on the table at the moment. But it's the first week of Jan.
Of course, of course. It takes us to Liverpool. And of course, it takes us to the three, to Trent, to Van Dijk, and of course, to Mo Salah. On Trent AlexanderArnold, Real Madrid lurking, and we know that. That very indifferent performance against United at Anfield on Sunday, Alex, has it made the blindest bit of difference to where he may or may not end up?
I don't think so. I don't think Liverpool are so reacted that one bad performance in a derby is going to make them decide, actually, we will sell him in January. After all, their stance has always been, if he goes, it will be at the end of the season and not before. We are anticipating, speaking to our colleagues in Spain, that Real Madrid will make a formal offer. They haven't yet. Maybe that will test Liverpool's resolve, but I still think Trent will be a Liverpool player at least until the end of the season.
Mo Salah might, meantime, indulging in some mind games, posting a picture on social media that included himself, Trent and Van Dijk in that game against United. I'm not sure what he was up to there. I'm not sure if we're having Mo for doing that, but I'm sure that Mo's not bothered that we're not having Mo for doing that. I wonder where we're at with Van Dijk and Salah. Where are you at with it, Mike?
Well, I'm watching it, Jim, and firstly, I want to say, obviously I'm a London-based reporter, so I don't get the opportunity to speak to Arne Slot, but I think he's handled himself and conducted himself brilliantly.
Oh, yeah.
From day one, he has replaced, not a manager, an icon. And no one gave Arne Slot a hope in hell's chance of being not only just top of the league, but maybe even top four. I think he speaks well. He gets asked about these players every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, and I think he handles it extremely well. All I'd say is for a club so well run like Liverpool, to have three iconic players at this situation is quite extraordinary. I don't think Liverpool fans will really like that picture. And of course now Mo Salah's he's tweeting Jamie Carragher. Who knows? But this could, and I know they've got a great lead at the moment in the Premier League. If I was Liverpool, I'd be a little bit concerned if I was a Liverpool fan. It's not over yet. This is the longest season in terms of fixtures, Europe, League Cup, FA Cup, you name it. There's a lot of twists and turns in this title race, and maybe we saw the first bit on Sunday with Trent AlexanderArnold's performance.
They've got a difficult run of away games coming up. I think they've got to go to Brentford, who rarely lose at home. They've got to go to Bournemouth. I think they've got to go to Forest as well, all before the end of January. And we know, of course, that Forest, the only team to win at Anfield so far this season. So I agree. And at some point, I think it was always going to come to the crux where subconsciously this contract situation was going to affect the players. It has to. It can't not. And actually, I'm intrigued by the Mo Salah situation. I know Liverpool are a bit agitated by how public he's making his dissatisfaction about this contract offer that's on the table. I can't think of another such high-profile player who has conducted contract negotiations so publicly.
Okay, so much for Liverpool. Elsewhere, Michael, when you look at it, Alex, goes for you too. Who needs to strengthen most, would you say? Who's crying out to bring in an addition or two?
Look, January's hard, we get it, but I think Arsenal will really miss Bukayo Saka in the next few weeks. I think they've done well at the moment without him. I look at Newcastle, and yes, we talk about PSR and Newcastle, but let's look at the signings they made back a few years ago. Trippier was the first one since the takeover. Bruno Guimaraes was probably, for me, the best signing Newcastle made in potentially Premier League history. I rate him that highly, Jim.
Yeah.
Sandro Tonali is now back, fully fit, and that's a formidable midfield with him and Joe Linton. Alexander Isak, he's going nowhere this summer, not this January, not a chance. I look at them, maybe just one more. You know, Anthony Gordon's looking great. Maybe one more to get them into that top 4. And you look, I look at the bottom 3. I think Ipswich will be all right. I do. I genuinely believe that maybe they can bring in 1 or 2.
If Ipswich are going to be all right, though, that raises question marks about Everton in terms of clubs who need to do business this window. I saw them at Bournemouth at the weekend. Defensively, okay. Still too reliant on Jordan Pickford. Going forward, offered absolutely nothing. That's the 3rd time I've seen Everton in recent weeks.
They cannot get
And
relegated.
they never look like scoring.
Oh, I know.
They never look like scoring a goal.
The new stadium's waiting there, Alex. They cannot go down. They dare not even contemplate
Well,
it.
one player they are looking at is Jaden Philogene, who you remember went from Hull to Aston Villa at the start of the season. Ipswich were at the table as well. Hasn't worked out at Villa, really. They're going to bring in Donyell Marl, and I think that deal will happen, which probably leaves Philogene surplus to requirements. So keep an eye on Everton in terms of him. Manchester City, I think we're expecting a big window from them. Marmoush, forward player at Frankfurt. I'm told this lunchtime, if they get a €60 million offer, they will do business. So we'll keep an eye on Manchester City in that respect. You mentioned Newcastle. Dubravka's going to go to Saudi Arabia. That's pretty much a done deal to sign for Al Shabab. Keep an eye on James Trafford in the Championship with Burnley. Burnley financially in a position where they might have to sell. Newcastle have been keen on him for some time. I think if Trafford comes in, he'll compete with Nick Pope for that number 1 jersey.
Here's one thing I'd like to ask. Southampton, who you cover, is it basically just let's just get relegated and start again?
Yeah, it's almost pointless, isn't it? You know, they did it when they were last relegated from the Premier League. They wasted so much money. They had a terrible January transfer window. Rasmus Ankersen, if you're a fan of the show, you're not very good at signing players. Don't do it.
Mike, you mentioned Heung-min Son at Tottenham. Is that and the contract extension there? Is that virtually like a new signing? Is that as good as? How will the Tottenham fans view that?
Well, he will be due a testimonial now in the summer, Jim. That tells you how long he's been.
Poor, though, wasn't he, this season?
Yeah, look, he's 32. They can't go on forever. Then we'll have people in the comments now saying Mo Salah is. So yeah, good point. But it's not working. It's not been a great season for Son at the moment. But Spurs, look, he is an amazing character. He's the club captain. It does the club no harm adding another year to his contract. How much he'll play next season, we'll wait and see. Spurs have also signed Yamin Huik last summer, who's now in the squad, who's learning English, learning London. He'll need Son around him.
Right.
And Son will treat him like a son.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer, but I see him more as a squad player next season.
Yeah. Mark Gahey, we were talking about him just before we came on. Palace to Chelsea and could get done.
Yeah, I think it could actually, because I was never convinced he was desperate to join Newcastle in the summer. Didn't push for that move.
No.
But what he also didn't do is enter into any talks about a new contract. He's got 18 months left on his deal. Palace are in a situation where if he's not going to sign a new contract, and I don't think he is, they're going to have to cash in. And I wonder, Chelsea's threat to recall Trevor Chalobah, who's had a really good season, is that just to smoke Palace out so that they can sign Mark Gay? He's been on their radar for a long time.
Palace always do stuff as well, and they're a very well-run club with Steve Parish and Dougie Freeman. So I agree with Crookie there. That's a really interesting one.
There'll always be late ones, Michael, won't there? It's always the same. Alex, when you and I were on, it was a January one, Enzo Fernandez, was it not?
It was a summer one.
But it was a summer one.
Was it? I think it was January. I thought it was January.
January,
I think January. I'm sure it was January.
You might be right.
Graham Potter. Yeah.
And it was quite a deal. And we waited and waited and waited. And then we got a text message from someone of influence, shall we say, at Chelsea. We've got an extra hour to get the deal done. And they got it done. Do you see anything similar happening in this window, Alex? I think certain clubs will do late business. It always happens.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see a £105 million transfer in January, but I think there will be half a dozen deal sheets that go in, and we all love that because it extends our day when we've been up all day anyway. But there will be late deals to be done. Raheem Sterling went late, if you remember, on deadline day in January. 1 minute he was staying at Chelsea. The next minute, you and I got the information that he's actually at Arsenal's training ground, or actually he was at someone's house near Arsenal's training ground, waiting for the call to have a medical. Those type of deals always happen on deadline day.
I had a nightmare last January. It was really cold, and I was at Spurs, and it was a quietish January, if I remember, from Tottenham's point of view. Done all their business. Clubs are more savvy now, to be honest. Let's face it. It's never going to be like the days when we were together at Sky. Everything happens on January 31st, but I was waiting to hear whether Lucas Bergville, Swedish midfielder, was going to join Tottenham Hotspur or Barcelona. And at Tottenham Hotspur's training ground, it's basically kind of in the countryside around the Enfield area. There's a pub next door where the landlady was very kindly let me in to keep warm.
It's a nice pub, that.
Yeah. What she forgot to tell me was she'd gone upstairs and gone to bed and locked me in the pub.
Oh, that is
whereas
fantastic.
Spurs had told me, Michael, it's good. He's chosen Spurs. I'm bashing on. Can you please let me out?
I love it.
And I'm getting pelters from Clinton Morrison, Chris Boyd, the usuals, Michael Dawson, because I look completely. So I'm
Deadline day lock-in.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to have a stress-free one on that one, but I'm hoping for Spurs supporters they can bring some in. The priority for Spurs at the moment, I understand, is forwards, and why not? Because you've got Richarlison injured, Wilson Odobert still injured, so they need to do some business.
Muani's a possibility, isn't it, for Tottenham?
Yeah,
More
look-
of a possibility than Spurs than it is for United, I think. At this stage.
There's interest there. There's interest there, but you do wonder when you hear the names alongside Spurs how difficult that will be. But Spurs will bring in a forward this January, in my opinion.
The Transfer Notebook archives, we all pick a famous or infamous transfer for whatever reason we like, because that's the kind of thing we do. I'm going to come to Mr. Michael Bridge in a second. Alex, what's the standout one for you?
Odion Ighalo. Do you remember him? Watford legend. Manchester United cult hero, shall we say? I mean, again, you talk about deadline day. This is one that came completely out of nowhere. I remember being in the talkSPORT office. I think I just started my 12-hour shift actually in the afternoon, and it had been a pretty quiet morning, and all of a sudden I got the information. Keep an eye on Odion Ighalo for Manchester United. Complete curveball. He was playing in Shanghai, I think, at the time. He did okay, actually, Ighalo. They've certainly signed worse strikers. I think he was more of a hit than Wout Weghorst, who they also signed late in a window. So, yeah, that one stands out.
Mate?
I think from a work perspective, I remember standing outside Crystal Palace and Benteke and Van Aanholt splashing me with water just to get me, and it was a good memory looking back. I think in terms of being at Sky with you was and as a Spurs fan was Rafael van der Vaart.
Oh.
And I look back at that Tottenham
Wonderful.
side. Yeah, under Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
And not enough is spoken about it. Lennon and
Yes.
Modric.
Yeah.
And Bale and then Harry didn't care whether William Gallas played for Arsenal or Chelsea. Nah, I don't care if Adebayor played for Arsenal. I'm signing you. And those are the days I miss sometimes with the Harry Redknapp and the deadline.
Oh, I miss him too. Funny you should say that, Michael. I remember talking to Harry. One deadline was fast approaching. Robbie Keane heading to Celtic. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
On loan.
Yeah.
And he says he's up to the Scottish borders, Jim. I think he's near Peebles. And he was almost in Scotland. Well, he was in Scotland by that stage, and then all the way up to the east end of Glasgow. And there was a huge crowd waiting outside Celtic Park for Robbie Keane, and they loved him there. Robbie Keane, who now has taken over at Fenerbahce, has he not?
Doing
In
quite well as a
Hungary.
manager. Yeah.
Never saw that one coming. Alex, well done. Great work as always. Michael, this is emotional for you and I.
It is, yeah.
But you've been that good, we'll have you again.
I'd love to
It's
see
that simple.
Thank you.
Michael Bridge with us this lunchtime, and you'll see plenty of Michael throughout the rest of the window on Sky Sports News. Don't forget, we're right across the transfer window every week. And every weekday of January, head over to your podcast provider to find a new episode of the talkSPORT Transfer Notebook, being released from Monday right through to Friday throughout the month of January. It's that time, folks.